Hi, my name's Colin Andrews, and we're going to talk about Love Your Garden today. Love Your Garden is an AI that helps us manage our regenerative farm. We run a regenerative farm on the island of Bahrain. It's an outdoor educational center as well. Check it out on Instagram, learntogrow.bh. And we bring kids and people from around Bahrain to connect them with nature and learn about how to grow food in some pretty harsh climatic conditions. But today I'll show you how we're using AI to manage the farm. We'll jump right in. And then I'll walk you through how I built it using low-code solutions like Buildship and Supabase and the OpenAI API. So the first thing we'll do, we have a Telegram bot over here called Love Your Garden, and we'll just tell it that we ate some delicious amaranth and sweet potato leaf saute, and see if it can update the food uses for amaranth and sweet potato in our database that we're able to eat them, because we have been getting a lot of amaranth and sweet potato in the summer heat. So thinking tells us that the API has responded, and now we've gotten a response from the garden that amaranth and sweet potato have been added. And then we have a kind of a check from me that the data was entered successfully. The individual observations are parsed out. We also have actions, so it's assigned us that we need to eat amaranth and sweet potato leaf saute. And then the things status update, so amaranth and sweet potato are just things that we want to track. We've updated the food uses. So that's really nice. Something else we can do is manage our tasks. So I'm heading to the store. Which of our pending tasks could I complete? We just had a vet come and we had a chicken die. And so he made sure that we were doing everything we could to have our chickens taken care of in the heat. So he gave us some tasks to go and do. Let's see if it's able to parse them for us. So a little bug I'm getting where it's sending the message twice. So see, this happens here. But that's okay. We'll figure that out eventually. And so you can see that we can get a thermometer for the chickens, buy a rectal thermometer for the chickens, and then also install a thermometer and hydrometer. So all these things that I can do that are on my task list that I could do at the store. So not only did it get my task list, it also assessed the result for things that I could go get from the store. The next thing that we'll do is yield tracking. So I was at the farm today and working with the gardeners, we harvested some dates in the summer heat. We also got 4 chicken eggs and 2 duck eggs. Let's see how it's able to process this. So this has been successfully logged. It was able to see that these were individual varieties of dates, and now updated those. And then now we can ask things like how many total eggs have we harvested per month since we started. Right now I'm being pretty specific on what it needs to look for, because I need to still pass in that list of valid objects that I can create the SQL queries appropriately. But you'll see how this is all happening in the back end. Oh, and that's the data update from the last one. So it returns us a table with, since March 2023, when we started tracking our yield, and this was on an Excel sheet originally, how many chicken eggs, how many duck eggs, and then what is our total. And looking through this, it's looking pretty good. And then I asked for the overall trend. So initially there was an increase from March 2023 to May 2023. That's because there were new chickens. We had a lot of ones that were just coming to maturity. And then in April 24, that peaked and then really started to decrease seasonally because of the hotter months. And that's something that we know. So that's a fantastic outcome as well. And then another cool thing that we can do is anything that we keep track of, we can ask the current status of it. So how it's doing in the garden. And again, these are pretty formal requests right now, but as we give a little bit more context as to what we're looking for and how to format correctly, then we won't have to be as specific about what we want. So we have a whole dossier of potatoes with history. Today, we took some clippings from the sweet potato and planted them in various places in the garden. That was just something I logged today. It's thriving in the summer. It's growing well in locations that weren't growing well earlier. And then we also list the known locations in the garden. That's something I could ask as well, like where in the garden is sweet potato growing, and go and check it out. So these are all some of the very interesting use cases for how we can manage the garden through just a text interface. You very quickly, we're going to get a voice interface and images as well on there. So what you see on the screen is what Andrew Lake and I made, which was version 1, and we were trying to turn this into a product to get funding to go and actually build this out. The approach there, we built it all, traditional code base, and Andrew's a master code wizard. But the problem was that I couldn't really support because it was such, developed code. I'm more of a, systems thinker and can't really understand how everything fits together. So instead, we're using now Buildship, and Buildship is my new love. I think it's amazing. So I'll walk through each of these flows and just kind of tell generally what it is. My first flow is a Telegram bot. So it's getting my Telegram chat here. And anytime I send a chat to the bot, this triggers. So this is where you see the thinking coming up every time I validate that. One of my major issues with Buildship is the just formatting. So there's a lot of things I have to do to just make sure that it's in the right format to go from one node to the next. I'm sure that'll be fixed soon. And then you have the OpenAI assistance baked in. So you can put this node in and then give it the whole prompt that you want to give it, which can be pretty massive. It's doing a lot in this case. And then even give it individual functions for it to decide when to call or not. So you saw a lot of new entry being logged. That's where the data was successfully entered. See the SQL query where you're able to say this auto-filled SQL query from AI. So I give it in this prompt the data schema. So like we have the table name, yield, and the date, item, quantity, and like very specific iterations that you have to go through to make sure that, you get some result that you weren't expecting, go back and fix it in the prompt. So prompt engineering is a real thing now. And then just send that Telegram message out through the response. So it's pretty straightforward once you get the flow down. There's a couple good templates out there, and the community is developing really well. I really am enjoying Buildship. So then what this is calling is new entry is one of the workflows that it's calling. And this is where things can get pretty complex, and being able to lay it out visually just helps so much over what a traditional code base looks like. So you actually create an API call, which you can call in Postman as well, which is pretty cool. So you can do your testing through here. You can also test manually in Buildship. So this sends a Telegram message, is where you see the entry logged, and then it's able to actually split out into multiple workflows. So the first one just logs the raw entry, and then this one is extracting individual actions, observations, and tasks from the user's input, putting that into a JSON. It's getting the valid things, so like sweet potato, dates, tomatoes, anything that I want to track that's in my database, then is assigning those things to the individual observations, actions, and questions. And then we're saving all of those actions, observations, questions into their individual databases. So these branch out even further. So like this one, for example, is calling the update thing status API. And that one is just an API call to, again, get that list of plants and then update the current status of the thing. And the current status of the thing is based on a whole dossier history of what I want to understand. So what's the planting date, previous harvests, health and growth, care and maintenance. So you can think of it like a scratch pad of anything related to that object. I decided to keep this more unstructured than structured, but we also have some more structured data sets that I'll show you in a second on Supabase. So this whole workflow is made just from these, 50 nodes on Buildship. There was some custom coding, but mostly you can do a lot of this with ChatGPT supporting you as long as you know what you want to do to connect these nodes together. So all of this is the kind of logic of the backend, but then the database itself is this here. I'm using Supabase, which I like a lot, actually. And here you see our different tables. So the first one is just the raw entry. So what's the current status for sweet potato? You see all my individual quests. That is then also parsed out into individual observations. So amaranth grows well with sweet potato. Amaranth sweet potato leaves can be sauteed with onion and garlic. It couple duplicates in here, but that's how it goes. Our individual actions as well. So we harvested 1 box of shill dates, 2 duck eggs, 4 chicken eggs. And then those actions are also represented here in our yield table, where we have I think we have to sort this by the date. We can see all that we harvested today. So it's item is dates, 1 quantity, 1 box of shill dates. The next step here is to get a kilogram equivalent. So I have a yield unit conversions table that I'll add in there. So like 1 box of dates is 5 kilograms. We know that because that's what we're selling to the market. And then we also have our plant list. And the plant list right now is acting as the thing table. This will eventually move into its own separate table, as you see there. But you can see here that, what did we update? The sweet potato. This whole history of the sweet potato is here. Health, thriving the summer, growing well in locations that aren't growing well earlier. And this will automatically update if we give another input for the sweet potatoes, which is very nice. This all started as a, just an Airtable database where we had the individual plants that we were working with, just trying to start populate things like the other names that they're lightly called as, like Losa is, we call it almond as well, Arabic name, so that we can make sure we have everything captured. And we're also trying to do things like try different planting months. So where I'd like this to go is, just like it can track individual objects, it's going to be able to track experiments. And we might call it the broccoli experiment. Can we plant broccoli over the summer? Which I've heard you can do here. That's basically the whole workflow. A couple of the tools that I tried using or am using: the assistants ground in OpenAI. You need to create an assistant to use the Buildship assistant. It's very straightforward. There's a lot of tutorials online. It's also started as a custom GPT. So you're an AI assistant designed to personify a home garden, and you're able to give it API calls as well that it can choose to run. I just wasn't getting a lot of consistency, and you have to confirm that you want to create a new entry every time. So like if I took any of these, it starts an action and has you confirm every time, and it's just not a great user interface. So I think ChatGPT and Apple Intelligence and all these, or any sort of interface update, would be very, very welcome. I would love to get this in WhatsApp, for example, but WhatsApp bots are very hard to come by. You see, even we called it, and it logged that as well. So that's kind of where we are. So this is what I ran through. This is Love Your Garden. We piloted it at Learn to Grow Outdoor Educational Center. Again, check out the Instagram. Some very cool stuff there. And the current status of where we are is everything I just walked through the tools. And our next steps, I want to, on Telegram, make this a group chat with other contributors at the garden, the voice entries, image entries, and then also put up a web app. So we have a website for both Love Comma and Learn to Grow, and having this as a chat bot on there, I think, is doable. So we're gonna put that up there. Also, things like harvest charts for this month all time would be really nice to see, that people can go to. Lookups make more natural. So instead of it being like sweet potatoes in quotes, make it understand what's in the database and be more familiar with the task at hand. Being able to edit individual tasks by saying, hey, I completed this task. I can go and look it up, find a similar match, and then update it. That should be straightforward, but a really cool feature. And then I want to update for animals, locations, and objects, even like shovels around the garden, the history, so that we can understand where our individual chickens are. And we had an individual chicken that was injured, and how is it progressing? And then we can go back and look at that and learn from our mistakes and learn from what we learned. And then these thing abstractions as well. So not only is our individual chicken doing, but how are our animals overall doing? What's the status of that? And how do I query that effectively? And then we're starting to work with more and more data. I think we have like 4,000 observations at this point from the initial version. And so we're going to create embeddings for the entries, observations, actions, and questions, especially, so that we can go and search into that wealth of information. I'm excited to get into embeddings. And we'll also add lookups in our database query. And then finally, knowledge extractions. So I want to be able to query this list of entries and observations to understand, when did we plant things? When did we plant things like tomatoes? Did it work when we planted it a month early? Did the chickens eat the seeds? Like what are our typical problems? I would love to see some sort of calendar generated from this based on what we can plant when, because that's difficult to understand. So it's all about gathering data, and then that data is to be shared. And I'll talk a little bit about how. So this is a really cool use case for the farm. I see this being fantastic for these kind of analog problems more generally as well. The farm is great, but it's not necessarily something people will pay for tomorrow. So we imagine Love Your Properties, where you can manage your properties, and imagine anytime you send a maintenance person out there, even understanding what they did to fix that air conditioning unit, or when you need your next inspection on your car, things like that. So properties, handyman, home, lots of different ideas there that I'd love to work on and generalize. So if you have a use case for anything you're working on, happy to collaborate. And then the next piece of this is my ultimate vision is a decentralized multi-attribute marketplace. So imagine everything with a history. So you have your tomatoes, your sweet potatoes, and you have this dossier. You can mint an NFT with the attributes from it. And then that NFT can be put up for auction in a decentralized farmers market. And you have a multi-attribute order book. So I'm looking for, here's a good, better example, I guess. So you have your whole history here of tomato seeds planted in the sunken garden, the seedlings emerge, flowering starts. And then you can actually go and sell that and connect with people locally, having AIs curate and match what people are looking for. But there's more information on the lovecomma.ai site. So I'd love to hear what you think about that. So that's where we are now and where we're going. And it's a lot of fun to build. And we've seen nice to really feel like we're getting an understanding of what's happening around the farm. And this is going to be a great educational tool as well. I think I'm most excited about being able to create experiments and track experiments, and then also be able to prescribe actions. So for example, like, hey, I want to build a no-dig bed. And then the AI can say, here's the 3 steps to build a no-dig bed, maybe a few more than 3. But it can guide you through each individual step, have you take a picture of where you are, how you built it, give you feedback, and then move on to the next step when you're ready. So very excited about where this is going. Looking forward to apply these types of like AI primitives that we're looking at, things like the ability to extract structured data from unstructured observations, the ability to keep the current status of an object, a real world object, digitally. And I think this is going to be very useful for NVIDIA's Omniverse type functionality where they're trying to build digital twins. And I don't think you can build digital twins with just sensor data and images. I think you need some nuanced input that you can only get from human observations. So that's a tool that we can use for that. And then finally, the ultimate goal of something, or another ultimate goal, a vision of what this could be is you see these emojis on the map is what Andrew did, which is just super cool. And so the individual things that are extracted are placed where they are on the map, where they're found. So all of our bees, for example, this is where our beehives are. And then when you click on it, you get the whole history of that beehive. So you can imagine this kind of looking like Pokemon Go, where you're going around and trying to document the different plant life and animal life that you see around a country. I would love to see something like that. So yeah, thanks for listening, and feel free to reach out with any questions or ideas or ways that we can actually make some, splash with this or money with this type of AI primitive workflow in a similar problem space. Thanks. Have a great day.